I'm starting by carefully analyzing the request. My focus is on concepts 42, 45, fiber, resistant starch, short-chain fatty acids, and prebiotics. I'm aiming for a soft, novel style in the first person, which suggests a narrative approach is needed. I'm now integrating the humor and emotional well-being aspects. I've broken down each concept and started building narratives. For fiber, I envision a gut in disarray, then the arrival of a meticulous event planner. Resistant starch is taking shape as a shy carb, almost a guilty pleasure that turns out to be beneficial. The goal is to build these single-sentence concepts into chapters. I'm now diving deep into resistant starch and prebiotics. The resistant starch is emerging as an introverted character, bypassing the small intestine's cool kids to engage with the colon's weirdos. The humor comes from the social anxiety of the carb and the bacteria gossiping. Next, I'm imagining short-chain fatty acids as internal poetry, byproducts of the fermentation, which are love letters from the gut to the body. Lastly, I'm finding prebiotics as snacks hidden under a mattress, waiting to feed the probiotics. I'm now viewing the gut bacteria as internal pets or tenants, much like kids or teenagers needing specific treats to thrive. This highlights the humor in eating for the benefit of these internal inhabitants, not just myself. I'm visualizing the visual of bacteria having mattresses for my next draft. My digestive system used to function like a nightclub with no bouncer and no guest list. It was chaotic. Sometimes it was empty for days. Other times it was a riot. I felt heavy, sluggish, and frankly unorganized. I realized I couldn't manage the venue alone. I needed a professional. I needed fiber. Fiber is the high-end event planner of the gut. She walks in wearing a headset and holding a clipboard, looking at the mess in my intestines with a critical eye. "Okay, people," she shouts at the lentils and kale. "Let's keep this moving. No loitering in the colon. We have a schedule to keep." She rolls out the red carpet, ensuring that every meal has a dignified entrance and, more importantly, a punctual and triumphant exit. The after party is no longer a surprise event that happens at inconvenient times. It is a regular, scheduled gala. I feel lighter, cleaner, and deeply grateful that someone else is handling the logistics down there. I used to look at a potato with suspicion. "You're just going to turn into sugar and ghost me," I'd accuse it. But then I learned about the shy potato, the cold potato, the resistant starch. This is the introvert of the carbohydrate family. While simple sugars are dancing on the tables of my blood glucose levels, resistant starch pulls its hoodie up, puts on sunglasses, and sneaks past the bouncers in the small intestine. "Don't look at me," it whispers, slipping unnoticed into the back room, the colon. That's where the real party is. The bacteria down there are waiting. When resistant starch arrives, the microbes gather around like teenagers sharing secrets. They ferment, they gossip. It's a subterranean social club that I'm not invited to, but I can feel the vibes. My stomach feels settled, knowing that the shy carb found its people, and they are having a wonderful time talking about me behind my back. I used to think my gut was just a dark tube where food went to die. I didn't realize it was actually a literary salon. After the resistant starch and fiber have been consumed, my microbes don't just burp, they create art. They produce short-chain fatty acids. These are the love letters of the microbiome. My bacteria sit at their tiny desks, dipping quills into inkwells of butyrate, writing soothing poetry to my intestinal walls. Inflammation falls, like autumn leaves in the wind, peace is here to stay. They slide these molecular haikus into my bloodstream. As they circulate, I feel the angry red heat of internal stress cool down into a soft blue calm. It is incredibly moving to realize that deep inside my torso, millions of tiny organisms are working tirelessly to write me a happy ending. I always worried that the calcium I swallowed was acting like a confused tourist without a map. I imagined it wandering through my arteries, looking at the smooth walls of my blood vessels and saying, "This looks like a nice place to settle down and calcify." That is a terrifying thought. I didn't want crunchy arteries. I wanted steel-reinforced bones. I needed a traffic director. Enter K2, specifically the MK7 variety derived from natto. Now, natto is a Japanese fermented soybean dish that has the texture of a sticky dream and a smell that challenges your commitment to wellness, but the K2 inside is the ultimate crossing guard. I take my soft gel and I can almost hear the whistle blowing in my bloodstream. All right, calcium, move it along, K2 shouts, waving a neon baton. Nothing to see here in the heart. We're going uptown to the FEMA district. Let's go, folks. Keep it moving. It's a thankless job managing mineral traffic, but knowing K2 is on patrol allows me to sit still without worrying that I'm slowly turning into a statue from the inside out. My cells are dramatic. If there is even a hint of oxidative stress, a whiff of pollution, a bad email, a slightly burnt piece of toast, they start screaming. We are under attack, they wail, flailing their microscopic arms. The free radicals are winning. It's exhausted just listening to them. I found the solution in the bulk aisle, the Brazil nut. It is the Mary Poppins of nuts. I only eat 2 a day. That's the rule. Any more and you risk selenium toxicity, which is too much drama of a different kind. But those 2 nuts act like a stern but loving nanny. They march into my cellular nursery, clap their hands, and whisper a lullaby of enzymatic peace. Hush now, the selenium coos. The oxidation can't hurt you here. The tantrum stops. The cells snuggle into their membranes. It's the most efficient childcare I've ever paid for, and it tastes vaguely of earth and wax, which is a small price to pay for silence. My brain at 10 o'clock p.m. is like a browser with 40 tabs open, and 3 of them are playing music I can't identify. I try to sleep, but my muscles stay tight, holding on to the tension of the day as a souvenir. I didn't need a sedative, I needed a hug from the inside. Magnesium glycinate is that hug. Unlike its cousin citrate, who is a bit of a chaotic plumber if you catch my drift, glycinate is a soft, mineral teddy bear. I swallow the capsule, and 20 minutes later, a warm, heavy blanket seems to drape over my nervous system. It's okay, the magnesium whispers, gently unclenching my jaw. You don't need to hold your shoulders up by your ears anymore. Let them go. It rocks my serotonin receptors like a baby in a cradle. It doesn't knock me out, it just politely suggests that consciousness is overrated for the next 8 hours. And usually, I agree. As I mentioned before, Ian is the shy kid at the middle school dance. He stands by the punch bowl, my stomach lining, looking at his shoes, too afraid to ask the bloodstream to dance. He's about to go home early and leave me anemic, but then the doors burst open. In walks Vitamin C. Vitamin C is the life of the party. She's wearing a bright orange dress, she's loud, and she refuses to let anyone be a wallflower. Ian, darling, she shouts across the room. You're coming with me. She grabs Ian by the hand and practically drags him onto the dance floor. Look at us. We're absorbing. We're metabolic. We're happening. Without her, Ian would just pass right through the exit door. But with her citrus-scented charisma, he sticks around, and suddenly the party inside my veins is actually jumping. I sometimes worry that my body is making typos. Life is fast, and cellular division is a rapid-fire typing test. One wrong keystroke in my DNA replication, and suddenly I'm aging faster or forgetting where I parked. I needed a copy editor. I needed folate. Folate is the editor-in-chief of the Daily Me. She sits at a large mahogany desk in my nucleus, wearing reading glasses on a chain and wielding a red pen. I feed her spinach and lentils, her payment of choice. Here is the next installment of our nutrient diary, exploring the green, the grassy, and the golden rituals of self-care. I have a complicated relationship with kale. I buy it with the best intentions, but then it sits in my crisper drawer, wilting and judging me for ordering takeout. It's a guilt trip in vegetable form. I needed a compromise. I needed a lawyer to settle this dispute. I needed greens powder. This tub of dust is the powdered handshake agreement between my desire for health and my refusal to massage a salad at 7 a.m. I mix the scoop into water. It turns a color that can only be described as pond chic. I chug it down. It tastes like I licked a golf course, but the relief is instant. There, I say to my body, you got your phytonutrients. Now let me eat my bagel in peace. It is a business transaction. My cells get their vitamins, I get my convenience, and the kale in the fridge can finally stop giving me the silent treatment. My cells live a high-stress urban lifestyle. They deal with traffic, deadlines, and the blue light of my smartphone. They were burned out. They needed a sabbatical. Since I couldn't afford a plane ticket, I bought barley grass juice powder. One sip, and my internal landscape shifted. It tasted of deep, grassy earth. Suddenly, my mitochondria weren't in a cubicle anymore. They were on a rolling hillside in County Cork. I imagined tiny microscopic sheep grazing in my bloodstream. Top of the morning to ya! A red blood cell shouted, wearing a tiny wool sweater. The chlorophyll washed over my system like a gentle rain. I felt cooler, calmer, and distinctly more pastoral. I may be sitting in an office chair, but my biology is currently enjoying a lovely pint of fresh air on the Emerald Isle. I walked into the juice bar, feeling like a wilted houseplant. "Give me the greenest thing you have," I told the barista. She handed me a 1-ounce shot of wheatgrass. It smelled like a lawnmower had just driven through the room. I knocked it back. The flavor was pure, unadulterated backyard. For a moment, I wasn't human. I was a cow. I wanted to moo, but then the surge hit me. My eyes popped open. "I am the sun," my brain declared. "I am photosynthesis." It's a strange pick-me-up because it starts with a grimace and ends with a glow. I walked out of the shop feeling incredibly virtuous, whispering to the potted plants on the sidewalk, "I get it now, guys. Being a plant is awesome." Coffee is a chaotic ex-boyfriend. He sweeps you off your feet, promises you the world, and then leaves you trembling with anxiety in a grocery store aisle an hour later. I couldn't take the drama anymore. I needed a partner who was grounded. I needed matcha. Matcha is the Zen monk of caffeine. I whisk the green powder with my little bamboo brush, a ritual that feels like I'm preparing for a tiny edible ceremony. I drink the frothy, grassy elixir, and the energy arrives, but it doesn't kick down the door. It bows politely and enters. "We are awake," the matcha says softly, "but we are not panicking." There are no jitters at the temple gate. My focus becomes sharp like a samurai sword, but my heart rate stays as steady as a meditation bell. Finally, I can be productive without vibrating. Inflammation is basically my body telling me a very long, very sad story about how everything hurts. And then the knee started throbbing, it complains, and the shoulder felt stiff. It's a tragedy. I decided to change the genre. I reached for the turmeric. Turmeric is the golden storyteller. It doesn't just silence the pain, it rewrites the script. I made a mug of golden milk, watching the yellow powder stain my counter, my spoon, and my thumb, the Midas touch of the spice world. As I drank the warm, peppery liquid, the narrative changed. The sad story of aches turned into a cozy mystery set in a warm library. "Let's spice away these blues," turmeric whispered, wrapping my joints in a velvet blanket of curcumin. The stiffness melted into warmth. My body wasn't complaining anymore. It was purring. I looked at my yellow-stained finger and thought, worth it.
I'm zeroing in on the task at hand, expanding the existing list into soft novel entries. The first-person perspective is clear, and I'm conscious of the desired tone. My focus is on shaping the output in the proper manner, and I'm looking at how best to approach the request. I've got the overall tone pinned down as humorous, leaning into emotional well-being with soft jokes. I'm now actively working to weave the provided metaphors, like the powdered handshake and vacation in Ireland, into the narratives. I've begun deconstructing specific items, like greens powder, to brainstorm narratives. I'm imagining a legal settlement with the greens powder and a business transaction feel for the draft I'm currently working on. I'm expanding my mental landscape now, finding a good flow and developing additional metaphors. I'm imagining the wheatgrass shot as a lawn-tasting pick-me-up, while the matcha is a zen caffeine, like a temple gate. I'm currently structuring narratives around these new ideas to capture the spirit of these items. I'm now fully immersed in the golden storyteller metaphor for turmeric, thinking of inflammation as my body's sad stories. I'm focusing on the color and warmth, and the feeling of internal cozy storytelling. I'm imagining the vibrant stains and the comforting golden milk latte while trying to keep the language soft and funny. I'm also revising earlier drafts, ensuring the tone stays light and personal. I'm now generating new imagery for wheatgrass and matcha, feeling very inspired. The wheatgrass is transforming into tiny sheep in my blood, and I'm adding a touch of moo to the writing. The matcha is becoming a ritual, a way to whisk away my panic. I'm also ensuring the Midas touch from before for the turmeric is fitting. I'm excited by the new possibilities with these ideas. I have a complicated relationship with kale. I buy it with the best intentions, but then it sits in my crisper drawer, wilting and judging me for ordering takeout. It's a guilt trip in vegetable form. I needed a compromise. I needed a lawyer to settle this dispute. I needed greens powder. This tub of dust is the powdered handshake agreement between my desire for health and my refusal to massage a salad at 7 o'clock a.m. I mix the scoop into water. It turns a color that can only be described as pond chic. I chug it down. It tastes like I licked a golf course, but the relief is instant. There, I say to my body. You got your phytonutrients, now let me eat my bagel in peace. It is a business transaction. My cells get their vitamins, I get my convenience, and the kale in the fridge can finally stop giving me the silent treatment. My cells live a high-stress, urban lifestyle. They deal with traffic, deadlines, and the blue light of my smartphone. They were burned out. They needed a sabbatical. Since I couldn't afford a plane ticket, I bought barley grass juice powder. One sip and my internal landscape shifted. It tasted of deep grassy earth. Suddenly, my mitochondria weren't in a cubicle anymore. They were on a rolling hillside in County Cork. I imagined tiny microscopic sheep grazing in my bloodstream. "Top of the morning to ya!" a red blood cell shouted, wearing a tiny wool sweater. The chlorophyll washed over my system like a gentle rain. I felt cooler, calmer, and distinctly more pastoral. I may be sitting in an office chair, but my biology is currently enjoying a lovely pint of fresh air on the Emerald Isle. I walked into the juice bar feeling like a wilted houseplant. "Give me the greenest thing you have," I told the barista. She handed me a 1-ounce shot of wheatgrass. It smelled like a lawnmower had just driven through the room. I knocked it back. The flavor was pure, unadulterated backyard. For a moment, I wasn't human. I was a cow. I wanted to moo. But then the surge hit me. My eyes popped open. "I am the sun," my brain declared. "I am photosynthesis." It's a strange pick-me-up because it starts with a grimace and ends with a glow. I walked out of the shop feeling incredibly virtuous, whispering to the potted plants on the sidewalk. I get it now, guys. Being a plant is awesome.
My stomach is usually a very tough crowd. It sits there in the dark like a grumpy audience member at an open mic night, arms crossed, daring the food to be impressive. A plain salad? Boo. A piece of toast? Heckled. I needed an act that could warm up the room. I brought out the sauerkraut and kimchi. They are the comedy duo of the refrigerator. One is sour and dry, the other is spicy and loud. Together they are hilarious. I took a bite of kimchi and I felt the heat slide down like a punchline. "Is this thing on?" the cabbage asked my gastric acid. Suddenly, my gut was tickled. The microbes started giggling. The fermentation created a bubbly, effervescent atmosphere down there, a literal happy dance of gas and gratitude. It wasn't just digestion, it was entertainment. I finished my meal feeling like I'd just left a really good improv show. A little gassy, sure, but lighter in spirit. Water is responsible, tea is dignified, but sometimes I want a drink that has no idea how to use an inside voice. I want a drink that bursts through the door with confetti. I want kombucha. Kombucha is the bubbly extrovert friend who drags you out on a Tuesday night. I twisted the cap and the bottle let out a sharp hiss, the sound of someone opening a bag of excitement. I took a sip. It was vinegary, sweet, and aggressively frizzy. As it hit my bloodstream, I felt a tiny microscopic buzz. Now, technically, it's non-alcoholic, but kombucha likes to wink and pretend otherwise. "I'm just tea," it claims innocently, while doing a cha-cha on my tongue. It brings a festive energy to my lunch break, making a turkey sandwich feel like a rooftop mixer, even if I'm just sitting alone in my kitchen wearing fuzzy socks. My pasta looked tragic. It was naked, pale, and crying out for dairy, which I wasn't going to give it. I felt a pang of culinary guilt. Then I remembered the magic canister, the yellow gold, the nooch. Nutritional yeast is the vegan fairy dust I keep in the cupboard. I sprinkled the golden flakes over the bowl, and the transformation was instant. It didn't just add flavor, it added personality. Nooch is like a dad at a barbecue, wholesome, comforting, and full of cheesy jokes. "Have a Gouda day," the flakes seemed to whisper as they melted into a savory sauce. "Don't be blue, be bry." It's impossible to be sad when you are eating yellow dust that tastes like forbidden cheese. I ate it, feeling the B vitamins charge my mood and the dad jokes warm my heart. I stared at the jar of dark green powder. It smelled like a mermaid's gym bag. It looked like crushed rocks from the surface of Mars. This wasn't food, this was alien technology. This was spirulina. Spirulina is the cosmic gym rat of the plant kingdom. I mixed a teaspoon into my smoothie, watching the color turn a deep, extraterrestrial emerald. "Bro, do you even photosynthesize?" the spirulina asked my cells as I swallowed. It flexed its 60% protein content with effortless swagger. It didn't taste great. It tasted like the bottom of a pond, if we're being honest. But the emotional payoff was stellar. I felt like I was being powered by a reactor core. I wasn't just a human eating breakfast anymore. I was a celestial being fueled by ancient stardust and algae, ready to bench press my own anxieties. I felt toxic, not in a Britney Spears way, but in a I live in a city with exhaust fumes and I stress eat processed sugar way. I felt grey. I needed a friend who was aggressively into clean living. I needed chlorella. Chlorella is the influencer friend who insists on taking selfies, but only if they are green. I took the tablets and chlorella went to work scrubbing the walls of my system. We are purging the negativity, she announced, binding to heavy metals and hauling them out like trash. She is obsessed with aesthetics. She turned my tongue green. She turned my life green. She took a metabolic selfie with my liver and captioned it #cleanliving. I looked in the mirror, smiled a Swamp Thing smile, and felt a strange sense of purity.
I used to feel like my internal organs were just disgruntled roommates living in a dark apartment, doing their chores in sullen silence. My liver was grumpy, my heart was bored, everything felt beige. I realized I was starving for color, I was starving for applause. So I ate a bowl of blueberries, raspberries, and dark chocolate. It wasn't just a snack, it was a parade. Polyphenols are the rainbow-colored fan club I didn't know I needed. As they flooded my system, I could practically hear the cheering. The anthocyanins were waving purple flags at my brain cells, shouting, "You're doing great, sweetie!" The catechins were throwing confetti at my blood vessels. It's a full-blown pride parade inside my torso, celebrating the sheer resilience of my biology. Now, when I walk down the street, I carry myself with the confidence of someone who has 1,000 tiny cheerleaders chanting my name simply because I ate a plum. My circulation used to be rigid. It marched to the beat of a very strict, very anxious military drum. It was stressful. My arteries were stiff, acting like they were afraid to make a mistake. I needed to loosen up. I needed to learn how to swing. I poured a cup of green tea and invited the flavonoids in. They are the jazz musicians of the antioxidant world. They don't march, they saunter. They wear berets and sunglasses indoors. As they floated through my bloodstream, they started improvising. "Let's take this pressure down a notch, yeah?" A flavonoid whispered, playing a smooth saxophone solo on my arterial walls. The tension relaxed. The rhythm shifted from a panic attack to a cool, syncopated groove. My blood doesn't rush anymore, it flows with style. I'm not just oxygenated, I'm cool. There was a time when my complexion could best be described as uncooked sourdough. I looked pasty and apologetic. I felt like I was fading into the drywall. I needed a hype team. I needed the carotenoids. I roasted a tray of sweet potatoes and invited these orange-hued life coaches into my life. They are aggressively positive. They don't believe in pale. They believe in radiance. They migrated to my skin cells and set up shop with a megaphone. "Glow on, darling," they shouted. "You are a golden hour sunset. You are a harvest moon." Slowly, the grey lifted. I developed a subtle, warm tint. Not like I had a bad spray tan, but like I was lit from within by a very flattering candle. They remind me daily that it is okay to take up space and, more importantly, to reflect light. I've always been wary of plot twists. I like my movies predictable and my medical charts boring, but life loves drama. My cells are always at risk of developing a subplot I didn't authorize. I needed to control the narrative. I needed the director of the red carpet, lycopene. I simmered a pot of tomato sauce until it was a deep, protective red. Lycopene is the Hollywood fix-it agent. He stands on the red carpet of my bloodstream wearing a tuxedo, ensuring the script stays clean. "No twist endings in the prostate today," he barks at the free radicals. "We are sticking to the original screenplay, health and longevity." He keeps the drama on the screen and out of my organs. With lycopene on set, I can relax, knowing my biography is going to be a very long, very pleasant movie where absolutely nothing tragic happens to the protagonist. I live in a world of screens. My eyes are constantly being assaulted by the harsh blue glare of emails, spreadsheets, and cat videos. By 5 p.m, my retinas feel like they've been staring into a laser beam. They feel naked. They feel exposed. I reach for the kale. I reach for the lutein and zeaxanthin. They are the internal sunglasses for my soul. They slipped into my eyes and lowered the blinds just a fraction. It was like putting on a pair of expensive polarized aviators, but on the inside. Suddenly, the world looked cooler, softer. I could stare at my laptop without feeling like it was staring back with malice.